Good afternoon. My work with human rights causes began in 2000 when the region of Chechnya was in the midst of the heaviest military actions in that region. At that time, I was head of the law unit representing the Memorial Human Rights Center in the city of Grozny. The majority of my work consisted of monitoring the situation in the region of Chechnya, which involved documenting cases of murders and kidnappings of people, and the cases of bombardments of the cities and villages. We provided legal assistance free of charge to many family members who came to our office seeking help in finding their relatives. Many people who were kidnapped by the authorities or the Russian army vanished without a trace. I'd like to show you now some of the pictures from that period. These are pictures of the buildings in the city of Grozny which were destroyed. You can see the ruins of schools, hospitals, office buildings, and homes. These are the conditions in which we lived and worked, just like many of the people in Chechnya at that time. This is the picture of our office staff from our office in Grozny. This picture was taken during the protests against the kidnappings and murders of their relatives. I'd like to now give you some statistics regarding the number of kidnapped and killed in Chechnya. I'll use numbers from 2002 and 2009 for comparison. According to data collected by our Memorial Human Rights Center in 2002, 544 people were detained. And these numbers are incomplete. Of those 544 people, 91 people were freed. 81 were killed. 372 people disappeared without a trace. In 2009, 90 people were kidnapped. 10 of them were murdered. 18 disappeared. 4 people were under investigation. And 58 people were released or bought out or freed. The pictures you see now are of students taken at the University of Chechnya. Many of these students were suspected of anti-government activities. Please take a look at their faces. Do they look like terrorists? These are pictures of students who died in December of 2000 during bombardments by the Russian Federal Forces, which led to their deaths. Children, women, and the elderly became victims of this war too. Today, the majority of my work consists of shedding light and letting people know about what was and is happening in the region of Chechnya. I keep a journal on the website, on my blog, called The Knot of the Caucasus, and I also work with the Chechnyan magazine called The Word. The current situation in Chechnya forces me and my colleagues to find new ways of providing information about the human rights movement in the Caucasus region. We all know about the tragic events, about the deaths of the journalists and human rights activists. These are Anya Politskovskaya. Last year, our colleague Natasha Estemirova was killed, who worked in the Memorial Human Rights Center. The lawyer Markelov was also killed, who represented the interests of Chechnyans in courts. All of these were proponents of human rights and the freedom of speech. I can say with certainty that the main result of all our efforts was the European Human Rights Court, which became our only hope that the situation in this region can eventually be resolved. How many innocent civilians, journalists, human rights activists, and lawyers have to be murdered so that the world's community can finally pay attention to the crisis that's going on in the Caucasus? Look at these faces. These are not the faces of children. They are the faces of the elderly who have lived through tragic events at such a young age. In front of their eyes, the father of these children was brutally murdered. These kinds of tragedies continue to grow. I've come to the conclusion that today in the Caucasus region, it's imperative that we create a center for human rights activism. I think this should be a center that's located in one of the more stable regions of the Caucasus. The function of this center should be to support the effective work of human rights activists and to provide for their safety. This is one of my most important goals in order to continue my work as a human rights activist. To succeed, I need your moral, psychological, professional, financial, and political support. I think that all of the conflicts that exist today in our world, and all the people who don't care or don't pay attention to any of these conflicts, become involuntary accomplices in these criminal activities. Thank you very much.